guys. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to 3 Degrees of Love Divination. Um, I This is my third annual, not sponsored, but uh, lovingly done because of what mental health means to me. So I'm using the hashtag Bell Let's Talk Day. Um, and this is the third year running. And of course, every year I have new people to talk to, um, to really dive into the understanding of mental health and what that means and how we take care of ourselves, and what are our thoughts on the world today as it is, and the fact that trying to break the stigma, because even though we are now in 2024, it's still very much a stigma, and because not only because of how my life has been affected personally, because of my own struggles, but just even in general, the people that I see around me, the people that I've, gotten to know and talk to and stuff like that. It's, and, diving into this aspect of spirituality, in the sense of, cartomancy, divination, books and poetry, it's all, to me, something that is meaningful, and so that is why I started this in the first place. This is the third year running, and why I'm so excited and happy to have you, Priscilla. Not only have you become a dear friend, but the content that you do on your channel, A Life Full of Simplicity, is such a joy. Um, it's not even just about the walkthroughs and the decks that you review, but it's when you were doing Cozy Tarot Sundays, which I think you've now moved to a sort
my
of
blog.
written.
Yeah.
Sorry?
To my blog. I moved them to my blog.
Yes. But also, just how you are, your personality, it's very soothing. And we've done videos together in the past, and we've talked about psychology and mental health and things like that. And if you guys haven't checked out Priscilla's channel, I encourage you to do so and check out some of the videos that we've already done together. And of course, all three of us are Canadian, and Bella's Talk Day is a campaign, in here in Canada. So that's another thing that is very meaningful for me as well. And getting to know people, just community and building that sense of community. Amy found me on Instagram, and it how that happened was because I don't know, so my PEs, we love to online shop, and somehow we ended up on Amazon, and we found your book, Amy, and I think that's by clicking on it, that's how you found me. And I couldn't believe it, because it's a book I don't yet have. It's a book that I definitely want, and I will have the link to it in the description so that people can check it out. As a newly published author, even from what I've read on the back and the summary of your book, it hit home, and and not just because of the fact that I already have a love for poetry and new age poetry, but it's everything that your book and you seem to stand for. And so that resonates with me. So when you reached out to me, I was, over the moon, and I was like, yeah, okay, she's gonna join this year's panel, I hope. So I want to thank you both for doing this. Um, I can't tell you how much this means to me. And especially the fact that this is my third year. Three is my life path number. Three is the start of the channel name. So, thank you. I will let you guys, you know, get more into introducing yourselves, and share some other things that maybe I didn't get a chance to cover, because this is what we're here for. So we'll start with Priscilla, just because you happen to be on my left, as I
Sure.
can see. So yeah, Priscilla, please.
Yeah, so I'm sure most of your subscribers know me already from doing videos together, but if they don't, in case they're new, I'm Priscilla. I own the channel on YouTube as well as on Instagram, A Life Full of Simplicity. I am a tarot reader. I do deck reviews, book reviews, that I either receive from publishing houses for a review or that I purchase myself and show on the channel. And my background is also in psychology and social service. Just like you have a social work background, I have a background in psychology and social service. I don't currently work in that background, though. I do work in business, which is completely left field from my degrees. But yes, but my channel mostly focuses on specifically spirituality and tarot and mainly reviewing decks and whatnot to show on the channel, some of which have a spiritual component, some don't, some can be used in shadow work. So yeah, that's really me.
And Amy, what about you?
So I'm very new to like both your channels actually. I don't think any of your subscribers know me, but um I actually thought I reached out to you, Alana. I think I was like shamelessly promoting myself, at least like trying to. And I think that's how I found you, but I don't quite remember anymore. In any case, I'm happy to be here, and I think the initiative you're doing is incredible and much needed in our world. But something that I recently, a project that I recently did that I'm quite proud of. I'm also a little bit self-conscious of because it is a big deal for me, is I recently published a poetry book, and it's an anthology of poetry that I have written since middle school. Some poems date back to middle school, and I'm currently 27. I'm currently a teacher myself, so it's very interesting for me to be revisiting my poems as I published them. It was very interesting for me to read them again, and I feel like I have like a new lenses as I'm looking at them, but at the same time I resonate with something, a part of me that was a part of me from when I was younger. So it's like with mental health, I always feel like there's like an inner child in me still that's waiting to be nurtured. And so poetry is a way for me to nurture that child. And um it's the book is called, I should mention this, the book is called Can We Talk About It? And it does talk, actually it's very much about mental health, even though it's not that obvious because I don't state it. It's not like a self-help book, but in many ways it does help. It's very soothing to be able to experience all those emotions because I personally think that it's really important to express them, and that's a really good way to heal our emotions and our mental health. So, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think I one of the things I wanted to mention earlier, but for some reason the word just wasn't coming to me. One of the things that I really appreciate about poetry, and even, well, books in general, but even more so poetry, is because I feel like poetry books are a really good addition when it comes to divination. You right, we have bibliomancy, which is also a
Yep.
practice of divination, and that is, you know, use the use of books, and you know, and literature and what's written, and so, you know, I combining those aspects to me is, you know, and especially now when a lot of the poetry books that I find that have been coming out over the years are really sort of geared towards what I would consider mental health, not only on the aspect of, you know, the authors, and will either come out and talk about openly about whatever their struggles were, or if it's even reflected in the poetry itself. And you know, some of the greatest written poetry have come from real life experiences, is what I have found. And so that's why um, I really enjoy a really good poetry book, you know, and so why I'm really excited for yours, because can we talk about it? That in itself, to me, sums up the entire aspect of why Bell Let's Talk Day is in existence,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because of the stigma that is held with mental health, and that has plagued it for as long as I can remember, and even to present day. So, you know, thank you. My other question for you guys is, how do you find spirituality helpful to you? What is it? What, so we already know, Priscilla, you're into tarot and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and divination, and so am I. But you, Amy, like, how has spirituality been helpful to you, and what practice, if you will, do you have?
Mm-hmm. Um, and I didn't write the answers down. I did look through the questions beforehand, but I am thinking on the spot, so give me a moment to, but I actually do consider myself spiritual, even though I don't do any cards, and I actually like astrology. That is something I follow. But other than that,
Love
I'm
astrology.
no.
Right? Exactly. We all of us do. So
I feel like
there you go.
there's a lot of covert astrology fanatics. They're in hiding, and I'm one of them. But yeah, other than that, I do feel like I am spiritual. But a bit of background about me. I grew up somewhat religious. Like I grew up in a Roman Catholic household.
Same
And
here.
I think like a lot of people are, right? And whether it's Catholicism or even Islam, I grew up a lot around a lot of Muslims, and for my family, Catholicism was chosen. Like we weren't born into it. I was born into it, but my dad chose it for our family.
Okay.
Um, and it contributed to a very strict kind of upbringing, because it was my dad had this like a vision of for like how he wanted us to be, um especially how he wanted me to be. Like he wanted me to be that pure Christian girl, and he kind of like subtly molded that for me. So I did feel like I had to break free from that, not because I had anything against Catholicism, not because I had anything necessarily against religion, but that kind of boxed in mentality wasn't working for me. So spirituality for me is embracing fluidity. Like I really embraced this feeling like you got to trust your intuition. So even though there's a lot of self-help books out there, and there's a lot of gurus, a lot of people who want to mentor you, want to show you how things are, personally would avoid the one wayers, like there's only one way of doing this or that. I feel like there's so much variability within ourselves, And so spiritual practice for me is this feeling of like following that intuition, following that little voice in your head. Even if you can't hear it yet, just try to listen for it. And it's helpful for me because it's me learning to trust um an energy in me that's like more of like meandering, right? Like holistic kind of energy.
Yeah,
Um
exactly.
instead of like linear, like this way, that way. So it's helpful for me because I actually feel more free. I feel more liberated as a woman, but even as a human being.
It's very high priestess of you.
Yeah,
Literally,
exactly.
you were talking, and I was like, "Wow, that's like such a high priestess moment." Like, I love it.
But it's so like the thing is, and I don't know if you noticed while you were talking, but there were moments where as I'm watching all three of us, I'm on my phone here, and while you were talking, I could see both Priscilla and I are like that. They're
Yep,
just like
yep.
because it's you like you were to me you were spot on like
Yeah,
that
same.
to me in and of itself, that sort of boxed mentality that as you described to me is part of why we have such an issue with mental health, right? It's not it I mean there's of course there's way more to that, but I also feel that having this sort of like as you said linear based sort of this is the right way, instead of just accepting people for who they are and letting them be free to be themselves, it can be very restricting, yes, and because of that can take a toll on one's mental health, right?
Mhm.
um, so that's why to me it's important to have your own personal practice and to understand what that actually, what that really means. There I wouldn't say that there's something wrong with, well, I wouldn't say that I had that there's anything wrong with having a religious background.
Mhm.
However, I find that in many cultures and many religions, it can be very restricting and very limiting, and thus the divide that keeps us separate from one another, which is, and I recently learned the word omniist and what that means, and it's the acknowledgement and the respect of all faiths across the board, and the understanding and the implementing of various teachings, so not adhering to one specific thing, right?
Mhm.
And so when I talk about me as a spiritual person, you know right now that's what I would consider myself. Do I lead with Christianity? Yes, because that's my upbringing, that's my heritage, right?
Mhm.
um and many of the teachings of that, that I still hold near and dear and value strongly, you know but the practices within it has been something that I would say I've always questioned, and even now to this day, I, lack of a better word, want to blow it up. Like it's so dogmatic and so far off in one direction that it's actually doing more harm than good. That's
Mhm.
my personal opinion. Anybody can weigh in on that. Any of you ladies, like, because I mean, like, you pretty much, this is like exactly like the summary of what you were just saying. Well, elongated summary, if you will. But yeah, like, I mean, I think we're all in agreement on that. Like, I mean, it's love and acceptance and understanding of one another is what's needed. So
Mhm.
what? So that kind of leads me into my other question about your own personal practice, what that looks like for you, and how does that equate to your mental health and wellness?
Mhm.
Priscilla.
Okay. So my personal practice is typically with divination. So typically I'll do like shadow work or, spreads and things like that, and I'll use specific decks for that practice. And I don't um in terms of like mental health and like mental well-being, I consider it like a form of self-care, I guess, to like do divination. It like relaxes me, gives me this sense of like relaxation and whatnot, like doing my practice and things like that. I don't know if I would say, I don't know if I would go as far to say that it's like something that helps my mental. Yeah, I guess so. I don't really know. Like I would say sometimes it does calm me, but like sometimes you get some messages and they're just like really confronting and then you're like, okay, I don't want to deal with this right now.
And yeah, like you say that, but that to me, that's the aspect of shadow work, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's what I
It's that
said. Yeah.
level of healing and understanding oneself, right?
And sometimes I'm just like, I don't really want to do this right now. But yeah, my practice is mostly with divination and things like that. That's mainly what I use in my own personal practice for me specifically. So, yeah.
And would
But
you
yeah,
say that even when you're doing your year ahead readings, your or monthly whatever,
mm.
that it's also helpful mentally because it helps you to sort through things in your mind, like
Um,
things that you may be struggling with, things that identifying things that maybe you need to work on for yourself, like it starts with the
sure.
mind, but it's overall, right? Like the whole body.
Yeah, sure. I guess in a sense, yeah. My main focus is really just doing like a theme for like the month to see like what the overall month would encompass, I guess, like a focus, like something to focus on specifically for the month
Mhm.
and things like that. And then, something that I need to learn from the month. So I focus more on like lessons that I need to get out of something rather than focusing on like, you know, um focusing on like what it is that the month is going to encompass, kind of thing. I like
Mhm.
learning from it more than anything else, like predictive, like if people will like to predict their month, for example.
Mhm.
I'm not really into that. I kind of go more towards something that I need to learn and what I can take away from it is more of the sense. And then reflecting,
And
I guess, on the at the end of the month to see if it's something that came up or something I actually learned overall or focused on during the month and things like that.
the way that you've articulated that to me
Mm.
speaks very much to that aspect of wellness and mental health, as
Hmm.
opposed to the predictive sort of fortune telling aspect,
Yeah.
if you will, of divination, right? And
Yeah.
that's to me, that's the part that I
Yeah.
feel is the most helpful when it comes to mental
Hmm.
health. Like
Yeah.
why I see the combination of these various things, including therapy, something that can work very hand in hand and can be very what's the word I'm looking encompassing, as a
Yeah.
whole. So
I see it as a way like for growth and like for potential and like opportunity and things like that. That's how
yes,
I see it specifically. So yeah.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Amy?
I'm kind of thinking about this question and I'm actually not too sure where to take it. I'm actually a little bit stuck. Um, just because I don't feel like I necessarily consciously do any like spiritual approaches. Like I guess
Mm,
I feel like I don't necessarily have like it's not a conscious thing that I do, but it could be
mm,
something subconscious, like
So okay, so
Mhm.
let me rethink it.
Mhm.
In your day-to-day sort of things, what are some practices that if you were to think about, you would consider can be spiritual, um that you find is helpful to you, that keeps you grounded and very much able to function daily, especially considering you're a teacher, right? So your brain is always going. So what helps to keep you grounded? What are
Um,
things that you do that maybe you do daily or weekly or whatever that is part of your wellness practice?
this might sound kind of silly, but it works for me. And if it
Mm,
works, then it works.
Yes,
for sure.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to make sense to other people, but it's just like knowing my
absolutely not.
yeah. So just knowing me, like going back to the religion versus spirituality thing. One thing I wanted to add actually onto that conversation was I feel like the reason why I don't feel comfortable with religion is because in the past I felt like people followed religion because they had to, like they
Hmm.
conformed to society, it was the norm.
Yep.
But
Mm-hmm.
nowadays I feel like people follow religion for a different purpose, and I feel like for some people it's motivated by fear, and that's my concern. That's the reason why I'm a
Hmm.
little iffy about it myself, is because I don't want to conform to that. I don't want to follow that based on fear. I
Hmm.
want something loving. I don't want to fear the God that I'm looking up to. I want to be loved by this God, whatever that looks like.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So in my spiritual practice and what believe in spiritually is I I currently, and that could change, I feel like with the fluid aspect that I was talking about, my belief systems do change as I grow myself. I currently do believe in a God, but I only say that for myself. Like this is something that I would never push onto another person because I think it has to make sense to them. So for
Yeah.
me, it
For sure.
helps to believe in God. And it also comforts me to feel like for me, I actually picture like a blanket that I put on. It's like a safety comfort zone. It feels like it's not a physical blanket, but I actually just imagine this blanket that I wear throughout the day. And I picture that as someone watching over me because I think it could be my upbringing. It could just be a personality thing, but I have a love-hate relationship personally with authority. And but the authority that I dream of, the authority that I want to look up to is someone who is loving instead of somebody who wants me to fear them. And so that was the part that I struggled with the idea of God and religion. But for me, I picture something that works for me, which is this blanket, so to speak, that looks out for me throughout the day, and that actually makes all the difference for me personally. um i uh i I think I want to save astrology for the next one in terms of the tools, that because that is something that I look into a lot. But yeah, for me it has to do with my own imagination, and for me to it almost feels like a self-help kind of thing. Like I figured out a way for me to help myself
Hmm.
just through my own active mind. Me bringing that comfort for myself and being kind of like sustainable and self-sufficient in that regard. But yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, like, while you're talking, my inner piggies are like screaming, that what she's talking about? That's faith. You have it's stepping into faith, and I think there's an element of meditation in there because the idea of picturing and imagining, putting yourself right, like you're the yeah, like that, all of that was what was like the piggies were like, yeah, don't forget that, and don't forget about that. As I'm listening to you talk, I'm like, this is exactly what she's describing, at least in my opinion, right? Like, and any anybody can chime in and jump in and say what they, if they agree or whatever. But yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was listening to you, and I was like, perfect. Like that's not, to me, that's no different than someone who sits in front of an altar for half an hour and meditates. I
Mhm.
had recently learned, because the idea of meditation and yoga practices and things like that has never, well, it's appealed to me in a way, but it's not something that I've ever, like, I have tried yoga, and I've tried hot yoga, that for as a first
Never in my life.
experience, as a first experience, and only never again experience. Okay, I got sick really bad afterwards, because anyways, that's a whole other thing. But yeah, like, I just, and so that whole idea has, it's never really kind of flowed with me, even though there's been like the interest was there, right? But then I remember I had a reading done, an Akashic Records reading, at one of my local divination stores. Excuse me. And one of the things that, because she talked about, raising my frequency and stuff like that, and do the chakra healing work and stuff like that, and raising my vibration. And so, and when one of the ways the practice is about meditation, right? Like, and I was like, yeah, well, the sit there does not really work for me. But she was so, but I was like, I don't know how I got into it, but I was talking about how, but I am very, I am, clinically diagnosed as OCD, and so there are things that are very, and I even talk about this on my channel, like certain things that, is very appealing to my OCD practice. And that's and especially with my cards, like after using them, I put them in numeric or alphabetic, whatever order it needs to go in. And that's a very soothing thing. And the idea, because I'm doing something and it's with my hands, but I'm just in a state of, she was like, that's a form of meditation. And I was like, but I'm not just sitting there. She's like, you don't have to. Like, dance is another, it technically is a form of meditation. Anything that gets you to free your mind, if you will, from whatever distraction, if you will, is a form of meditation and helps. So, that, to me, at first I found very, very interesting. And I'm like, yeah. So while you were speaking, yeah, like, that's exactly, that's meditating. I have that ability with that, to meditate throughout your day. You don't have to sit there in, like an hour-long session. You're meditating throughout your day. And
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Sorry, can I add on to that? I actually can't sit there for like an hour and meditate. That doesn't work for me. I once did a half-hour session with a friend. She
It
took
doesn't
me
work for me
to,
either.
yeah, it doesn't work for everyone. It's not, it sounds lovely. It actually I spent 30 minutes meditating with a friend at this temple. And then after that, she asked me, "How do you feel?" And I was like, "I feel like I'm about to lose my mind." Like my thoughts were just like, it was like too quiet, too like, I was like, that's not how I work. This is not meditation. I'm about to lose my mind. So I never did it again.
For me, meditation, like I can do guided meditations for like 30 minutes if there's like like talking, telling you what to do, and then some silence for a little bit, and then again talking what to do. Those I have no problem with for like 30 minutes or whatever. That's fine. I've done many of those. But usually if it's just silence, I can only do 5 minutes and then that's it. I don't do anything else. Just 5 minutes, complete silence, just like a sound or something, and that's it. But guided, I prefer guided meditations if I'm going to do longer meditations. Then, yeah, I can sit there and just listen.
Yeah. It's funny because the times, like, because I've taken, like, these different sort of groups, with mindfulness and stuff like that, and the idea of the guided meditations and stuff like that, I can I could do it, but when I have to just be like, they're great, but I will fall asleep. I guaranteed I fall asleep. So then it's like, what was the point? Like, I mean, like that's what, because I get bored.
Wow. That's funny. But I guess the point is that you get to rest.
Yeah, I
I
guess
guess that's the
so.
point.
I think you kind of achieved the purpose, you know. Sleep could be a form of meditation.
It is, well, it is, right? It really is, but it's just, yeah, well, it's when you're trying to do a particular form of meditation, and you can't stick to it because it's too boring. So you end up going into another aspect of deep meditation. Anyway, yeah, yeah, the other question was, I think we kind of jumped right into it anyways, but like, what are your favorite tools and stuff? And I think that's when, because you said you wanted the astrology, Amy.
Yeah, so I find that I talk a lot about my upbringing because it really shaped who I am today. And it shaped everyone, but I think I'm
Mhm.
like hyper conscious of it.
Hmm.
Um my upbringing really shaped me to um it was a very my parents were very like on top of like things in my life. Like I had a lot of extracurriculars and they talked to me about university since I was 7 years old. So I've been
Oh,
hearing all the
wow.
university talk like you got to get into this program, got to get in way before all the other kids. And so by the time I was in high school, it was just like music in the background. Like I was so used to it. And then I got into university. So I went to University of Waterloo and I was in a program that I really liked. I was very passionate about the environment. So I got into it's environment resource and sustainability. Got into the program I wanted, was so stoked to get started, uh, to pursue my passion. And then I got there and I had an identity crisis because I'd built my whole life around getting into university. So once I was in, I actually did not know what to do with myself. Like I was so lost for many years. I had I got into relationships as well. Like there are a lot of personal things that happened in my life that really threw me off the tracks. And then I looked back on my childhood and I realized that one of the biggest issues, if I could identify one, and not to say that my parents didn't do their best, because they did do their best within their capacity, but they didn't necessarily do what would have necessarily worked for me. Like they don't always know best. I don't think parents always know best, but they know, they try. I think that's the least we could, that's what we can say. So they really tried to tell me what to do. They really tried to paint the world as being really black and white, but it's not. The world is so complex and all these layers. And I, as an individual, I'm also complex in all my layers and everyone else. So where astrology comes into play was I was introduced to astrology through an ex, or he was my boyfriend at the time. And then even after we broke up, it stuck with me because astrology became a tool for me to understand the human psyche, basically. It was like psychology for me. But it was psychology in a way that was kind of like in our rooted like from birth. Like it was, and I like that idea because of my connection to my childhood. I like the idea that it's been there since the day we were born. It was determined by the day we were born.
Hmm.
And then I like how the astrology chart also progresses, which some people don't know. Actually, most people don't know, but it does progress over the years. And so it's fluid like me, and it identifies so many layers to my personality that I'm still uncovering to this day. I feel like I'm only at the surface of it. There's so many things that I'm discovering. And then there's people that are like, wait, but Gemini is a sign, right? I'm like, there's so much more to that. There's so much more to this and like,
Yeah.
but people don't know. And I like astrology because it gives me an explanation and it gives me a reason to to love myself for who I am instead of being critical about it. And that has helped my mental health a lot because something about me is that I am a Libra sun, but I am like drenched in Virgo energy. And Virgo is very, very critical of themselves. And I am very, very critical of myself. So when I use astrology and I discover these parts of me, I become more accepting and loving towards myself. I have empathy for my flaws, if I can call them flaws, and I learn to embrace them and see that with each personality type. So for example, with the Virgo Venus, a Virgo moon, which is what I have, there's a shadow side, but there's also a good side to it. So which one am I exercising? And am I evolving or have I evolved? So I don't like using the term unevolved because I think everyone is still evolving. Like even as a teacher, I wouldn't say a student is like here, I would say they are trying to do this. They're on their way to learning this, but I would never label them as like they're right here. So that's like my language has changed because of astrology. It's just this feeling like we got to be accepting of ourselves and we got to work with what we have because I'm never really gonna be as free as a lot of people. I feel like there's always gonna be a part of me that's searching for boxes because that's how I grew up. But I think the least I could do is acknowledge that, know where it's coming from, and then work within what I have. So knowing my own strengths and limitations as well. And so I talk a lot about astrology, and I guess that's a huge spiritual practice of mine, but it just makes so much sense for me. And when I tell other people, when I tell my friends, they're really shocked. They're a little intimidated that I know so much about them. And they think I'm like a witch, but it's astrology.
So I'm giggling all over right now because as I've been listening to you, and again, this is an observation thing. When you connected astrology to psychology, I saw a twitch over at Priscilla that seemed like it was like in agreement. And
Yeah.
then, of course, my mind started to percolate to Carl Jung and our past videos together and this
Yeah.
whole blah, blah,
I
blah,
love it.
back to mental health again, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I know we all appreciate astrology.
Yeah.
So I definitely know that, right? So again, it all kind of goes down to the uh, the connectivity of it all, right?
Yeah.
And we're more connected than we think we are. Like it's anyway.
hmm
Uh-huh. So yeah, Priscilla.
I have a lot of tools, but before I get into them, I actually wanted to say something about the astrology thing because you said earlier, Amy, that you're 27 now, right?
Yeah.
That means that you're going to be going through your Saturn return soon.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
So I actually wanted to recommend something to you.
Okay.
Hold on, let me just see if I
I'm so
can
I feel like I'm speaking with
find
like
it.
people who get it. Like we're speaking the same language. This is my
Yes,
my fam.
yes,
Okay.
that's right.
So I have this book. It's actually a journal. And I wanted to recommend. So you were saying that, and I was like, wait, she said she was 27 earlier. Wait, that means she's going to be doing her Saturn return soon. So I wanted to actually recommend this. It's called Surviving Your Saturn Return. It's a guided journal to help you thrive in your cosmic coming of age. And I thought you actually might like this since you love astrology so much. It actually talks about your Saturn return and then goes through different questions. Hold on. Let me there we go. Different questions, goes through like pursuits, pastimes, preparing for your Saturn return, talks about health, relationships, wealth, community, and like the ongoing. And we have several Saturn returns in our, I think, three in total until we die or something. If you don't live past 100, I guess. But yeah, so it tells you like what it is, and you can mark it down like when your Saturn returns are and things like that. Technically, this would be your second one since the first one we have as a child, but Yes. So, and it has different questions and things. So I just wanted to recommend that before I go into
That
my
looks
tools because I
amazing.
thought you might
I
enjoy
think,
that.
yeah, I need that. Oh gosh, Piggy,
Did
calm
you
down.
write it,
Have
Priscilla?
you, have
Or
you, I can write it down.
like did you write that book or is that like something?
No, it was sent to me for review. So I'm an
Oh,
ambassador for that publishing house. They're called Running Press, and they send
okay.
me things every single month to review. And it was one of the books that they published last year.
Mhm.
One of the books
Nice.
that came out. So I actually really liked it. Unfortunately, when I got it, my Saturn return already passed, so I couldn't do it. But I'm hoping to do it my next one. But my next one is only when I'm 50, I think. So
You got some time.
50, yeah. So it'll be a while. It'll
It'll
be
be
a
a
while
while.
before I've till then.
Pre-study the material.
Yeah. But I thought I would recommend it in case you were interested since you love astrology. So
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't know a book like that existed. I'll definitely check it out.
yeah, there's a lot of resources out there when it comes to astrology, in my opinion.
So,
Okay, yes, go ahead.
sorry,
Yeah.
because I know Amy, you talked about astrology. Do you have any recommendations, like books that you really like that
Hmm.
you use or
Yeah.
utilize?
I'm always looking for
I
recommendations, so
I actually don't read astrology books. I
oh,
watch a lot of astrology videos. So
oh,
I
okay.
have
Okay, so
astrologers that
even
I
yeah,
follow.
Yeah.
I can't think of. I'll have to like. I can search well now while like Priscilla talks about her stuff, and
Sure.
yeah,
then
sure. And then you know what? Like, I mean, because this is the joy of the fact that this is a pre-recorded video and we're gonna have the premiered on the day of Bell Let's Talk, so we'll have the live chat. So even then you could always put it in the live chat if you are able to make it, and we can share resources then. So that's I think that was the whole reason why I chose to do it this way. So
Hmm.
yeah, so of course, by all means, like, go right ahead, and Priscilla, continue.
Sure. Plus, I'm always looking for more people to follow on YouTube anyway, so yes.
Yes.
Okay, so anyone who knows me knows that I can't do a video about anything mental health related, shadow work related, or anything without mentioning Kim Kranz. Come on, it's me. Gotta mention Kim Kranz. So Kim Kranz is actually she's a tarot reader. She's actually a musician also. She has an album coming out soon. And in case anyone likes music, she has a new album coming out. She hasn't done music in like 20 years, I think she said. So I'm super excited. But she has a bunch of decks. This tarot deck, obviously this is the pocket edition, but I do have the full size
Me
right
too.
right there behind me. And then she has a bunch of Oracle decks, which I have all her decks.
Do you have
So
her book, her hardcover
I
rainbow ribbon
I
marker? Like, it's like her memoir book, I think. Yeah.
yeah, I don't have her graphic novel because that's what it is. It's a graphic novel. I don't have it. That's the only book I'm missing from her, I think. And her game. She released a board game and I don't
Yeah,
have
she
that
just
either.
released a board game. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I don't have that. I do have that book. Oh crap, I should have brought it.
Yeah, it's
Didn't think
it's
about
a
it.
memoir that she drew. It's a
Yeah,
graphic
it's
novel based on her life.
gorgeous. It is
Yeah,
gorgeous,
it's on my wish
absolutely
list.
gorgeous. I know right where it is too. Oh my god, I don't know why I didn't grab it, but anyways, go ahead.
So I love this deck so much. It is black and white with pops of color. This is a tarot deck. And I love it because you see the light in the shadow. That's pretty much what I get from it with every single card. Most of the cards, some of them are completely black and white. There's no color in them, so they're really shadowy. And then you have some that have, like in this case, we have the Son of Pentacles, which is the Knight of Pentacles. We have like a pop of color right there. And for me, this is like a great shadow work deck. I use it specifically for shadow work. I use it for other reasons too, but I use it also for shadow work because I feel like there's such light in this deck, even though there's also so much shadow. Like there are some very hard-hitting cards in here. If I can find something, let's see. Here we go. like the Ten of Swords, for example. I don't know if you can even tell, but there's actually a cow here, and all the swords are going through it. So some of these cards are quite hard hitting, but I absolutely love it. And I think her deck is actually brilliant. This tarot, well, the full size, the regular size deck was actually my first tarot deck. It's not the reason I got into tarot because I actually got into Oracle first, which I thought was tarot. There's a whole thing, but here's another hard-hitting card for that. But I love the pops of color. That's really what I love about this deck because it really shows that there's always light at the end of the tunnel, especially this one here. This is the Six of Wands, I believe. And you really see that aspect, in my opinion, with the butterfly being colored and then all the like kind of like branches here at the bottom. So I really love that. So this is one of her decks that I use for shadow work. And then the other deck that I use from her is the Wild Unknown Archetype. So this is the Wild Unknown Tarot. And then I also have her Wild Unknown Archetypes deck here in this box. She does have a pocket edition coming out. I have it pre-ordered. It's supposed to come out, I think, in April or May or something, which I'm really excited about. So this deck is based on archetypes. It's round. And I love this deck because it gives me the sense of like Carl Jung and the archetypal work that he did in psychology. And while not all the archetypes are the same as his, here we have the offering. The offering. It just gets that sense of like shadow work in the archetypal sense. And I do like working with archetypes when it comes to shadow work. And inner child work, for example, which is a popular archetype, is archetypal shadow work. You're working with a specific archetype, you're going deeper with that archetype, and you're trying to do more work with it. So you can, in a sense, take one of these cards and do more work if you'd like, or you can use all the cards and just do a reading and things like that. I do it both ways. Sometimes I pull a specific card that I want to work with, and other times I just do a reading, just work with the cards I pull. But the guidebook is what I love when it comes to this deck. It's so in depth. It has so much potential for each card, which I absolutely love. So you have the main information, you have like keywords, but what I really love about this particular deck and the guidebook specifically is they have a go deeper section. So here at the bottom, the last one, it says go deeper, and then you have different things that you can do. For example, I'm pretty sure I'm not sure if these are people or to Google. Sometimes there's a movie, sometimes there's music, sometimes there's things to read, like a short story, read letters, read poetry, and it gives you a specific like poem to read or a specific book to read or a specific composer to listen to and things like that to understand the deeper meaning behind the card, which I really love because you just get entranced by the card and you can do so much extra work with this deck and each card that's there by doing the go deeper part of the deck. So that's one of the reasons why I love this for shadow work. And then I have two other decks. One is newer in my collection, and the other one I've talked about on the channel before. So of course, I can't talk about shadow work without mentioning this deck, which is the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle. This is by Serafina Mesa, who owns the company Rue and Vervain. This deck is currently out of print, but is coming back next year in 2025.
Actually, I think she still has copies left of the limited run that she did. The reprint.
There was only 2 left. The last time she said there was only 2. So it'll be sold out by the time this goes up, it'll be sold out.
Probably.
It'll be sold out, sorry.
However, I do still have my extra copy that once I
Oh,
get
yeah.
200 subscribers, it will unlock the giveaway for that deck, and it is a first edition.
Yes, first
So
edition. Yeah. Yeah.
so so if you really after you see Priscilla goes through this deck
Yeah.
and you would like it, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe so we can unlock the giveaway for it.
Yeah. But if you miss that giveaway, it'll be coming back to Kickstarter next year in 2025. In case you missed
Yeah.
that. So she'll be doing a Kickstarter again with the tarot that she's creating with the artist Kat next year. So that will be next year on Kickstarter. But I absolutely love this. I think Kat did a beautiful job with the artwork. It's there's like a nice balance, which I love. I don't like when shadow work decks are just shadow. Like I really love a good balance between the shadow and light. And I feel like this deck really does it well. You have both aspects of that with the cards, which I really love. So, yes. And of course, there's spreads in the deck. You get spread cards as well, which are the same spreads to take with you on the go. Because the first edition, the book is bigger than the box, so it actually comes separate. But if you had a chance to get the limited 1111 edition, then you'd get the book in the box. And I believe the Kickstarter, the book will be the same size as the box as well in the newer edition that will be coming next year. So, yes, I love this just for regular shadow work, like just regular readings, not necessarily like shadow, but like just regular readings. When I'm in the mood to just do shadow work reading, I usually pull from this particular card because it has that nice balance, which I really love. This one's Poisons and Toxins. I love this card, the Lunar Eclipse, so beautiful. The moth. So yes, you get some keywords, you get the title of the card and some keywords. So it's very versatile, easy to use, which I really love. And then another deck that came in October. Yeah, October in my collection, October of last year, 2023. I was actually sent it by the publisher for review. I requested it actually. I reached out to them and I requested it, which is the Between the Worlds. It's a shadow casting with Bone and Curio Oracle cards. This is by Monica Bordersky. If you know Shadowland, Tarot, and Lenormand, you'll know this creator because she's the one who did those. This is published by Red Feather. And I love this deck. The book, absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I do really like this for shadow work. It has a nice feel to it if you're looking for a deck that's very minimalist because it literally just tells you. So this is a wishbone, so it has like what it is on there. So wishbone, and then we have what is this? A horseshoe. So it's like objects or bones, things like typical things that you would see in like a actual casting set, like a charm casting set or a bone casting set. If you did that kind of casting, which I don't, but this is a nice alternative. But the guidebook is very much into the shadow, which I really like about this. So it gives you like a story associated with each card. And I really like that. If you're really into like storytelling and understanding cards via story, you'll really like this because each card has like a story associated with it. But what I love is the reflection part. So each card comes with questions that you can answer. And I love this because journaling is definitely a great part of like using tarot and oracle or journaling in shadow work. Journaling is like a big thing. So I feel like this kind of deck is really good if you're looking to journal more into the shadow side of things. So they have like some great questions for each card where you can reflect on different things. For example, this card here, what is it? It's called Tulip Shell. The keywords associated with are child and adult. And then here's some reflections. What positive attributes do you see in children? When do children make you frustrated? How were you disciplined as a child? What boundaries were you not given as a child? What is a happy memory you have of being creative as a child? So this is great for like inner child work, for example. You're really like connecting with your past, but also your inner child, thinking about things that maybe you were not given or were given and things like that. So I love the guidebook on this is fantastic. I think she did a fantastic job. I was actually very shocked and impressed when I did my unboxing for this because I wasn't expecting the book to be this thick. And then I was like, wow, this is I was so shocked.
I seen that deck and I've been overlooking it.
Don't overlook it. Watch my unboxing. Believe me, you'll be like, wow, this is amazing. Because that's me throughout the whole thing.
Yay.
I was so shocked. It was so good. I wasn't even expecting. Like I saw that I found this because I was looking for like decks to feature in my Halloween in October. Because usually in October I feature like more spooky kind of decks that feel more October-ish and things like that. And I found this and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen this before. I reached out to Red Feather seeing if they would send it to me to review on the channel. And they were like, yeah, here you go. And I was like, okay, thanks. So I reviewed it, I got it, I filmed my video, and I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this at all. This is so good. What in the world? Like, it's so good. And I never see this deck. It's overlooked, I think, by many people, but she did a fantastic job. Fantastic job.
Including me. I
Yeah.
humbly admit. uh, and yeah, um, I need that deck now. Like, yes.
Yes. And then
I need that now for my. That's a very social working deck, in my opinion. Oh my God.
I know
Okay.
it's good. And then one for inner child work. So I wanted to make mention of this deck. This is the Creative Consciousness Healing Oracle. And this is by Joanna Wright. It's published by Andrews McMeel Publishing, which I don't know if you're into poetry, you might know them. They're very big in publishing poetry. They started publishing decks 2019, I think.
What was the
Um,
name again?
Andrews McMeel Publishing.
Okay, I'll look
Yeah,
into it.
if you know Amanda
Lovelace.
Lovelace, if you know her as a poet, they're very big on poetry. They publish a lot of poetry. Amanda Lovelace is one that they publish a lot of her stuff, and she has a few decks herself, which they publish, and that's how I found out about them specifically. It's through decks. They started publishing decks in 2019, and this was one that they came out with last year. The cards are rather large, but I do really love this deck. It's really great for inner child work or any kind of light shadow work. I feel like the shadow work is very like it's not as dark in that sense. It's more of a lighter side in that because the colors are very vibrant and cutesy and things like that. You have some nice names, titles, and then some key phrases at the bottom and things like that. But the guidebook is where you get some really interesting information about every card. There's a visualization exercise that you can do with every single card, which I really like. Though if you're not into visualization and meditation and things like that, you might not want to do that. But there is journaling prompts again with every single card as well. That you can do. For example, this one here, Moon Path. The journal prompt is try journaling with the moonstone on the path. Ask it, what do I need to know right now? Allow any images, inklings, memories, songs to pop up. Write them all down. Do not try to make sense of them right away. Just record them. which I really like. It's more of like a free flow kind of automatic kind of writing kind of exercise, which is really nice. This one here, ice boundary. Try journaling with a part of you that is afraid of being surprised by a triggering person, request, event, or memory. Let this part of you know that you have the power of the ice boundary and that you are always safe, even when you're surprised. Like I really like the prompts and the visualization exercises that she wrote in the guidebook. I think it was well done in that sense. So that's why I wanted to mention it, and it's also one of the tools that I use. I just wish the cards were a bit smaller because they're like bigger than me, and I have to shuffle them like this, which is rather annoying. But but other than that, yeah, that was one thing. And then I did want to make mention of the emotional kaleidoscope introspection deck. We actually did a collab together with the creator of this
And it
particular
will
deck.
be linked, guys.
Yeah, so I did want to make mention of this. If you're looking for a deck all about journaling, this is a great one. You have prompts based on your conscious, your preconscious, and your subconscious, which is the concepts that Freud created in terms of the iceberg model. So if you're really into psychology, you'll understand that. But each card has a prompt on it that you can journal on. If you're into tarot and not into journaling, you can definitely use these as spread positions and pull a card to go deeper into the question. For example, this one is, what coping or defense mechanism do you think you learned vicariously as a child? And then you would journal on that particular prompt. And you can pretty much go anywhere you want with the prompts, but I think they're very interesting. Here at the conscious level, we have, can you explain what grief feels like? What do you think happens when you don't grieve after a loss? And then on each side, you have kind of like, what do you call it? Ink blots, like an ink blot that was artwork for
Yeah.
every single one. The different levels were done by different artists. So I think she hired 3 different artists to do the artwork and things like that, which is really cool. But I really love this deck. I did unbox it on my channel. She did send it to me for review, which was really nice of her. And yes, so definitely check out the collab that we did together with Alana if anyone's interested of us talking with the creator. She's a very nice person. So
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And then my last decks that I wanted to talk about, which I really like. If you want a gentle approach, just need some gentle healing. I really love the Gentle Tarot. So I actually got this from you, Alana, because I won this in a giveaway. So yes, I wanted to mention this because I do really love this. It's very soft, very healing. I love working with this particular deck. I also wanted to make note of a deck that came into my collection few weeks ago or a few days ago rather, which is the Song of the Grandmother's Oracle. I actually unboxed this today, so I filmed my video already for it.
I'm
But
sorry. I'm sorry. There's my piggies are screaming right
yeah,
in my ear right now because they want to get this off their chest. So they're sorry to interrupt you, but
yeah.
just it's just the power of all of this and the recognition of the community and
Hmm.
how you know it, my heart space is exploding right now because how you ended up with the Gentle Tarot
Hmm.
was because I wanted it in a giveaway
I know.
and had 2 copies and I did a giveaway and you were
Yeah, it was funny. And funnily enough, I won
and
this also in a giveaway in a
and
giveaway
I
that
did a
Cara did.
giveaway because of that. And you'll
Yeah.
see
Brittany won
when I
that one.
talk about heritage and um the respect of our ancestors, because
Hmm.
how and when the timing of that deck came out, the video that
Yeah.
surrounded that, and what I
Yeah.
went through. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry. Oh my god.
Yeah, you lost your grandmother at the same time, no?
I both, and it was
Yeah.
when I experienced the tower of my life.
Yeah.
I, everything is just coming full circle, and you won that in a giveaway. I
Yeah.
Please continue because I.
Yeah, no problem. It's okay. Yeah, I won this because Kara actually did a giveaway on her Instagram. She picked 4 people to win a copy of her deck. And the creator and artist that does this one did the illustrations for this particular deck. So it's like a perfect match together. And I actually unboxed this morning, and I actually paired these together, and they're beautiful together, and the messages of them together was just absolutely stunning. Like when I was flipping through doing the side by side with the oracle in the center and then the tarot on the either side, I was just like, wow, this is so nice, because the messages on here are really beautiful. So I'm really excited to actually use this in my practice and use this together with the gentle tarot,
And it's
because
the
it's a
same, and it's
perfect.
also the same artist
Yeah.
who did the who did both decks.
Oh,
And
yes,
that's also
yes,
who did both decks, the same artist and
yes,
the
Mari.
creator. Yes, I all of which we all seem to have. Well, you and I, Priscilla, have, and I've
Yeah.
seen Amy frantically while you've been talking,
She's like writing
writing
down.
stuff down.
I bet she's writing all the decks. She's gonna start a deck collection real soon.
I am
And the
listening.
connectivity with books and poetry and the astrology and
I know.
like
But I just wanted to mention Kara's other deck, which is the
yes.
Prairie Majesty Oracle. This is the mass market edition, though, from Hay House, from Hay House. And I actually, in the guidebook in this deck, she actually mentions her other deck. And I was like, ooh, that would be interesting to pair together. And in my video, I actually did. And I was like, I wonder what it would be like to pair these two. And they really work well together. So this was another one that you can definitely use for journaling. So the cards themselves have, if I showed a few, have both a keyword and a question. So you have the question on top, and then you have the keyword at the bottom, and then you have a little mention of what it is that's on the particular card. So this says butterfly milkweed. So that's what's on here. And you can use this for many things. You can use this to create spreads. You can use this for journaling as well, just for the aspect of like, where do I give and receive? And you could pull like a card for give and a card for receive if you wanted to, or you could just note down where it is you give, where it is you receive, and look at the two and then journal the differences between the two. So I really do love that in that sense. For this particular deck, I really love it. And I was really happy actually when this deck went mass market. I actually pre-ordered this. It was so excited to see her deck become a little bit more accessible, in the sense of it being a little bit more affordable in that sense. But I really did love this very much. So we have, what does standing still reveal? We have reflect as the keyword, and this is a great blue heron in the card. So I really, really do love these decks together. I think they have a really great they connect well. They have a nice connection between them. So that's why I wanted to mention them.
Yeah.
And then I just have 3 books that I wanted to mention. One being called The Pivot Year. So I bought this last year. It's by Brianna West. or Weist rather. It's published by Thought Catalog Books. Not sure who they are specifically, but it's 365 days to become the person you truly want to be. So you have different days, and it just has like a paragraph for each particular day. I was thinking I would read today's. Since we started a new year, we're on day 14 of this year. So day 14 is the following. It says, move toward the people who expand your parameter of possibility, who believe in your potential just a little bit more than your reality. Move toward the people who remind you of the person who know you're meant to be, the ones who stretch your soul and make you feel something real. Move towards the people who remind you of what you contain, who help you fall a little bit more in love with life. Move toward the people who energize you more than they drain you. These little signs are not so little. They are the markers of your soulmates in all the forms they come. And this is just so beautiful because every day you have like a different message. You can use this as a bibliomancy also, since you mentioned that earlier. I love bibliomancy. I think it's a great form of divination, and this would be great if you're into if you're not into that and you just want a book to read. This is a nice one. You have a different message each day, which is really nice. You could also just flip to a message if you didn't want to, like if you already read the whole thing every day, like in a whole year. The following year, you could literally just flip to a message and just read whatever message, and that would be your message for the day or whatever that you need to hear. But I love this so far. I have not read every single message yet because I did buy it last year at some point, but I didn't get a chance to read all the messages that were in it. I read a few, but not all of them. So that was really nice. And I wanted to make mention of this book. It's actually a tarot spread book. It's separated by seasons. It's called the Tarot Spreads Yearbook. It's by Chelsea Pippin Mizzi, and it's illustrated by Kara Hudson. This is published by David and Charles Publishing. And I actually attended a workshop with the author today. She hosted a free workshop, which was really great. And we started going through the season of care, which is the winter season in this particular book. So the season of care. And each season has different spreads that you can do. So you have a theme of a spread, but it's centered around whatever the theme is of that season. So season of care is winter. And then you have spreads for intentions, resources, spirit, mind, career, play, friendship, romance, family, conflict, choice, confidence, cycle of care, and then reflections at the end. And each one is centered around the seasons of the season that it is. So this for care, we have intentions first. And the spreads are, how can I care for myself this season? How can I care for others this season? What is the biggest lesson I need to learn about care? So that's the first spread. We did this together. It was really it was really fun, actually. I really enjoyed the workshop that I attended. And you can use this as a journaling. You could use this with tarot or oracle or whatever. You can really do whatever you'd like with this, but I really like this because each season is like a form of self-care and like shadow work in that sense. So winter, we have the season of care. Then we have the season of growth, which is spring. Season of shadow is for summer, and then season of change is autumn. And it's really interesting. I do really like this. She also has it coming out in deck form in April, which is really cool. So I wanted to mention that. So yes, and then the last book I wanted to mention is one of my favorites. It's Tarot for Self-Care by Minerva Siegel. Absolutely love this book so much. Minerva actually recently sent me a little thing with her autograph, and I was able to put it in the book, which was really nice of her. She sent me a Christmas card actually, so.
Aw.
And yeah, she's so nice. I talk to her all the time. So what I love about this is that there's self-care activities for every card in the tarot. So you have 3 activities that you can do associated with the mind, the body, and the spirit, which I really love. And then for every card. So if you wanted, you could just pull a card from the tarot. What kind of self-care do I need to do? Pull a card, look in here, and these are the activities that you have. I use this for my Cozy Tarot Sundays, which used to be on my channel, which you mentioned earlier, but I moved them to my blog so they can be written instead. That way I could focus on other videos for my channel, like longer videos on my channel. So I wanted to make mention of this because I do really love this book so much. It's one of my favorites. This was one of the first books, I think, tarot related books that I bought myself. So it has a very special place in my heart. So I wanted to mention it. So those were all my tools. I had a lot of them.
Nice. Oh my gosh. So that was exciting. And yeah, so okay, so my stuff now. I'm gonna talk about so many. Oh my God. So this was a little bit difficult, but some of which I've already kind of mentioned, so I'll kind of like skim over it because in some recent videos I've done. But so I like, yeah, so like it's a combination of books and decks that I have, right now. And, as Amy, you said, you know, astrology, I've always had a love for and an interest in astrology, but I never really, until in my later years, more recently, have I sort of dug deeper and then want to learn more now and how it relates, like, as we've been talking this entire time. But some of the books, so poetry, this is, and it's funny because before I even did the nosedive into tarot, these are some of the books that I had already, as like new age poetry books and stuff were coming out, right? So I've had some of these books in my collection for a while. And but more recently, some of the, like, how I've been pairing them and some of the tarot, like this book, so it's All of It Is You, and it's by Nico Tortorella, and it's a poetry book, but it's basically how it's divided is from the very beginning of creation. So like the first poem is, hold on, sorry. This is him apparently. Not apparently, it's in the book. But anyway, so it's divided into sections like body, and there's a poem for like sperm, egg, conception, womb, and it just keeps going right to the entire universe, right? Like, because we go into, Milky Way and Sirius and Orion, like right now into the constellations, right? So it's like, to me, it's like connecting everything together, right? And this mentality and the division, it's all connected. So I love that. The other book is, this one is hilarious, and I talked about it. It's written in such a very kid-like friend like way, but it's an adult poetry book, if you will. But it's written like, it's very black and white, and even so it's called Everyone's an well, it's
Alien.
Everyone's an Alien When You're an Alien Too, except it's spelled with the B, right? So everyone's an alien when you're an alien too, right? And the premise is that we're all unique, but we're all the same. It's a very that sort of reflection, right? And that sort of acceptance of ourselves, of all aspects of self and all aspects of other selves, right? And so and it's like really speaks to the inner child because of how, you know, it's hand drawn and the simplicity of it, right? So, and you know, all my inner children go screaming for this book. Um, and like the deck that I talked about in my video that I saw to pair it with is Joanna Nelson's Cosmo Beings deck, which, you know, is, well, I put the deck back because I'm not ready to work with it yet, so whatever. I'm not going to show that one, but I'll show pictures and you can check out the video that I did about it. But then there were some other ones that, you know, we have like good morning, good night, little pep talks for me and you, and it's actually illustrated by the same author as Everyone's an Albion deck, so Johnny Sun, and it's got poetry for morning and night, but it's got the illustrations, it's got the little, you know, like short paragraphs of, you know, and you can read it as a whole story or like an actual affirmation, like daily kind of thing, right?
Yeah, like a mantra.
Yeah, exactly. So I really like that. And then, so by Jessica Holmes, we have Depression, the comedy, A Tale of Perseverance, and it's a combination of poetry, like journal entries that she had, like a, you know, like almost like a memoir, and put together into like this sort of story, if you will. And so again, I still haven't read it, but I have looked through it, and the way my brain works, I pretty much got the premise of what, even though I haven't fully gone through. But yeah, so this is another book that, you know, I think would be absolutely, you know, very helpful and really enjoy. And is probably on my list right now this year that I probably want to work with too. So those are, oh, and then we have inspirational poems and words for difficult times. And how lovely the ruins. And so, and there's poems, it's a collection of poems from different artists too. And we have like inclusion of poems from Maya Angelou and Rumi and Emily Dickinson and Leonard Cohen. So yeah.
Love Rumi.
Yeah. So yeah, so those are the books that I pulled, and of course there's like more. And well, and even so, like Andrew McMeel Publishing I've been following them for quite some time. So it's funny that they are really known for the New Age poetry books, publishing those. So like, as you had mentioned, Amanda Lovelace.
Yeah. Not only that though, they have regular traditional poetry too, not only just New Age related stuff. Like witchy.
Yeah, I know, but I'm more talking about the more recent trend of stuff that I've also accumulated in the last several years, and that's more the New Age stuff, like R.H. Sin and what's her name? The author of Milk and Honey.
Rupi Kaur.
Yes, thank you, Rupi Kaur. I have all three of them.
Yeah. Rupi is Canadian. She's from Toronto.
Absolutely, right? So, I have all of those, and all of those to me scream mental health too. So,
Mm,
like it's, Andrew McMeel's publishing, shout out to them. I have so many of their poetry books that you know, they've done. So the fact that they even now crossed over into like the tarot and, and
I
oracle,
know.
I'm just like, come on,
I know.
right? Like, like this is my world.
Yeah.
Anyway, uh, so yeah, also, I have what I'm currently working with that I'm really enjoying is Heart and Hands Tarot.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And this is published by US Games.
Oh, yeah. That's a new one, right?
Yeah, that's a newer one, and it's yeah, it's black and white, and but it's not even
Yeah.
just the deck, it's the messages in the guidebook, because I talk about it all the time. I love a really good guidebook. Like, I feel like it's an addition to the added aspect of my intuition when I'm reading the cards too,
Yeah,
right?
same.
So I love a good guidebook. And there. Okay. And that's by Liz Blackbird.
Mm.
And then the other more recent one, and I had my eye on this one for a while, when it first came out. So, um, Lower Scabeo is doing a Scarabeo.
Yeah,
I
Louis
always,
Carabel.
yeah, I always tend to like mispronounce it and or hit it right on anyway. So,
Italiano.
yeah,
They're
I only
Italian, so.
speak English. Oh, yeah, English. Um, it may be the one or two remembrance of French, but not much more than that. Oh, I can probably count in Spanish, but anyways.
Mm.
So is Disorder.
Oh,
So this is part of
yes. Oh my God.
their limited series of published decks. So it doesn't come in the typical like,
Tuck box.
um paper, like
Yeah,
tuck box.
I think that one was I think the regular edition of that I think came in a tuck box.
Oh, was there really? I
Yeah,
don't.
I think there was a regular edition. I talked about it in one of my upcoming releases. And I'm pretty sure it came in a tuck box.
Okay, well, I didn't. I thought this was like a newly released deck.
Yeah, I talked about it
Um,
last year. It was in one of my I talked about it last year in one of my upcoming releases.
I'll have to, yeah, or we'll link it down below or whatever. But yeah. So, anyways, and it screamed at me because of, again, being mental health advocate and stuff like that, and the fact that Disorder, and then not even to top it all off, we have Tarot of Innocence. So it's again sort of speaking to that simplicity of like inner child work, and sort of that black and white imagery. um yeah, so it comes, typical. Well, this is not typical, but so it has a numbered limited edition card, and I have 1640 out of 4,000.
That's cool.
And then
You
of
get this
course
from Amazon? Did you get it from
uh
Amazon?
no, I didn't buy it off Amazon, but you can purchase it
Yeah,
on Amazon.
I think the one on Amazon is in the tuck box. I'm looking at it now and I don't know because the reviews in the thing are showing your copy, but I don't think you
Yeah,
could get this limited edition on Amazon, so I'm a little confused by that. But I think the regular edition is in fact in a tuck box.
really.
Yeah, because the photo looks like it's their tuck box decks because they have different box styles, right? They have
Yeah.
the tuck box, they have the type of box that has the top that comes off, comes off this way, like the Tel de la Nuit, for example. They have the one that comes like that. But yeah, I think this style is just their tuck box in the non-limited edition version because
Hmm.
they don't typically do boxes like that. Unless
No,
it's their Oracle. In their Oracle, they do 2-piece boxes, but not tarot.
actually they do have some. They do have some tarot. They have the vintage tarot is like this.
Is it a limited
Or
edition deck though?
no.
Okay.
And wait, there's one more.
I'm surprised because usually they do. If
Oh,
they
and
do other kind of boxes, it's usually the one.
the radiant sun, but the round edition comes in a box like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's round, it makes sense that it would be a 2-piece box because it's not square. But
Yeah. So, but yeah, so that one is and I think there might be one more, but right now I can't think of what that is. But yeah, so anyway, so this one, yeah, and then a typical the advertisement card and then the title card. But these are the backs.
Yeah. This deck
And
kind of weirded me out when I was looking at the
really,
photos.
well, yeah. But you know what though? So like I feel like the pairing with the Cosmo Beings, Joanna Nelson's deck, and
Yeah, that might look good
the
actually.
poetry book with Johnny Sun, I feel like is along these same lines. And it's
Yeah.
getting that, like sort of like alienistic, astrological concept, you know, of who we are, right? Like of the world essentially.
Yeah.
So like it's still got that kind of that that human like sort of almost alien like kind of, right, sort of structure. So yeah, and the symbolism on some of the cards. The guidebook is like a typical low Scarabeo deck
Oh yeah,
guidebook, but I mean
multilingual.
it's what's that?
Multilingual.
Yeah, so it's the multilingual, but like and but it's got this the I would say very numerological like the meanings as
Okay.
written is very numerology based, so that kind of astrological sort of concept system, if you will,
Okay, that's cool.
to tarot. Yeah. So, but I really like that. And then the last deck that I would say, and maybe an honorable mention, but this, yeah. So the one that recently came into my, okay, maybe two, maybe there might be some more. One that recently came into my collection that they, and I do talk about this in the video. Never judge a like you the whole concept of never judge a book by its cover, but in this case, never judge deck by its cover kind of thing. So I found this deck, and what caught my eye, I think too, is because the creator's first name is actually my last name. Mine is a D. So, and it's called the Tattoo Oracle card set. And even like the box and everything, I got it on Amazon for like $20. And like it's one of those sort of cheap kind of, it's glossy. If you there's no thumb hole cutouts, so good luck with it. Yeah, kind of thing. But
I would never buy that.
that's the box. But again, as I say, never judge them, right? Never judge
Oh, I'm
judging
real hard.
by its box.
Yeah, I don't know. If you can't even get the cards out of the box to begin with, that's a little.
No. When the cards are in there, it gives it the weight that it. But the cards are not in here right now, right? So I'm using the deck. I realize that mistake. Anyways, but here's the guidebook, and I love the messages in it. So like
What's it called again?
The tattoo oracle card set by Ned Burwell.
Okay.
And I know this would probably drive a lot of people nuts because of like the writing on the back of the card, but this
Oh
is the
yeah.
back.
Mm.
But it's the simplicity to the archetype, the right, and the symbolism with the message. So
Mm.
like here we have Mary and
Oh yeah.
curiosity.
Wait, which Mary? Virgin Mary? Mary Magdalene?
It Okay, well, it doesn't really say, like it's just a
Oh.
generic Mary, I would say, but
Mm.
the
Probably
message
Virgin
in the
Mary.
guidebook will probably explain more. Let me see. I'll actually take a look. Hold on. I'll tell you. Mother
No.
Mary.
Yeah,
It's
so
Mother
Virgin
Mary.
Mary. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Virgin Mary.
yeah.
Okay.
And yeah, so and then we have curiosity, we have fear, we have Athena,
Hmm.
ego,
Interesting.
wolf, meditation, divinity, forgiveness, Jesus,
Well,
peace,
if you have Mary, you have to have Jesus in there, in my opinion.
peace, truth.
Oh, I like
Notice,
that. There's a pendulum on it.
yeah, I was just about to say that. Yep.
Mm, nice.
Let go,
Mm,
Ganesha,
mm,
compassion, fairy.
interesting. This deck is kind of all over the place.
Yep. Purpose, pin up, love.
Mm,
But notice it's also done in the way of like tattoo art, right?
yeah.
And even so and I found him on Instagram too because I went looking after I got the deck and I was blown away by my first pick and reading with this deck. And he is actually a tattoo artist.
That
Um,
makes sense.
and then also talks about so some of the messages to relate and correlate to the like the meaning, the historical meaning behind tattoos, right? So like one of the cards I think it's the one for anchor. There's an anchor card in here, and they talk about, you know, the historical premise on why sailors used to get anchor tattoos, and you know what the symbolic, you know, sigilistic, if you will, if that's even a word.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm sure you get what I mean by that, like the, you know, the emblem and the meaning behind it, right? That it carries. So and that's, you know, and so his explanation and interpretation too is part of the message. And like I said, the card that the couple of cards that I had first pulled when I first did my reading with it, like blew me away. And that's, it's in my video because I did read, I think, the first card, which was imagination. um and yeah, so I really like that too. And like I said, like the box, like, I mean, right, and it's so glossy, and even the cardstock is really like I
Ooh,
can most likely fold it in half, right? But
don't do that.
no,
There
but
goes
I'm,
the card.
what's that?
I said, there goes the card if you fold it in half.
Right? No, right? I don't want to do that. But yeah, but that's to tell you about the kind of cardstock it is. But it, I still find it shuffles well, and the messages, like I said in the guidebook, that correlate with the is so that's yeah. So that's that one. Um then so as we were talking earlier, and my heart exploded with the songs of the grandmothers and gentle tarot, another sort of very fitting relational deck, if you will, is the Resilience Alchemy Oracle.
Oh, yeah.
And that's on you have a walkthrough on your channel of that deck.
Yep.
And no, I have them put away and I don't want to open it, so I'm just gonna I'll put a picture of it on the screen. But but it's the way the guidebook and everything is set up. It's so, and the journaling aspect, it's so mentally stimulating, the idea
Yeah.
of resilience after trauma, like like it's such a well done deck. And that
Yeah.
is, and of course I came across and stumbled across that deck because of you, Priscilla, because of you and
Sorry, not sorry.
your relationship with RP Studio as an ambassador. So I had to go out and get the deck, and I'm so happy that I did because it's such a beautiful deck. And I even talk about it with a bunch of other decks on my channel for like my I think it was my Mother's Day video. And when I talked about grief and some decks that were in that. And so here's the other crazy link to everything here. So, as I've come to know you, Priscilla, and I get to know of your birthday, you're a day away from my grandma's birthday.
Oh.
My mom's mom. She's December the 5th. And the creator of the Resilience Alchemy Oracle,
Sagittarius.
the creator of the Resilience Alchemy Oracle also had a deck that you've also reviewed on your channel, which is the Pleasure Alchemy.
Yeah, that was her latest one.
Yes. And it also released on my grandmother's birthday.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the 5th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they had, and then RP Studios had their
running press.
a running press with their connection with the creator and a bunch of creators of some different decks too. They had their Yule live stream.
Yes.
And so
event.
and I was able to happily attend and find out. And I've been wanting the Pleasure Alchemy. So they have giveaways for different things. And then so I attended, so I entered the giveaway. And lo and behold, I won that giveaway and ended up with the Pleasure Alchemy Oracle, but didn't realize that I was also forgot actually. No, it was not that I didn't realize, I forgot because like I said, I knew what the giveaway was, but I never got a notice saying that I won the giveaway either. I just, one day UPS showed up and I was like, what? And then that's how, and it came in pieces too. So I ended up with their
oh yeah, their little toad. Their toad is so cute.
Yeah, that
Wait,
came in like one box, and then saying something about how I want to saying it is coming in whatever. So I was like, and then if you remember, I messaged you and was like, I think I want to give away, but I don't know what happened. I won because they didn't even tell me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like,
Surprise.
yeah. So then it came, and now I now also um ended up with a second copy of the Resilience Alchemy Oracle. So stay tuned because I will be doing a giveaway for that in honor of mental health and just the connectivity of it all. My heart screams with so much love and gratitude, just how everything just connects together. And there's even something more recent too, with some books, but I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah. Wait, I think there was. Oh yeah, the Pulp Tarot by Todd Alcott.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I remember, well, I missed the Kickstarter, and I'd only because I didn't know about it then or whatever, but I came across it, watching some and searching for reviews of decks, and saw the indie edition. So and I wanted it, but they were all like really expensive, like because it was indie.
It's an
I
indie
didn't
deck. So.
realize, yeah, I didn't realize that it was gonna come again mass market, and when it did come, I thought it was going to be exactly like the limited edition, but it's not, unfortunately. But and then I was disappointed when I got it first, and then was debating on whether I was going to send it back. But then I had to keep it, and now I know why, because I have loved working with this deck. The guidebook, as simplistic as even like it's the messages and the way that Todd write like the descriptions of each card is, to me, speaks to me in a very shadow worky, mental healthy, understanding your work, if you will, kind of way. So yeah, so I really like that. I'll just read one of the cards. So we have the Empress. The Empress is the personification of fertility. She reclines in her peacock chair in the middle of a thriving wheat field, giving you a come hither glance as she plays with her blonde hair. She has a crown of 12 stars, one for each month of the year. There are vineyards and mountains in the distance. The Empress commands her domain and is the awe of everyone who meets her. So I really like, and the understanding of, and I guess the description of the archetype, because it's the way it's written too, it is speaking to the image too on the cards, and it's got that very with like vintage sort of poster-esque images, if you will, and like movie covers and trailer posters and things like that. But even the symbolism and how he chose, I guess, the images, I feel it's very cohesive, if you will. So, and I like that kind of vintage pop culture kind of deck too, right? So, and then I think more recently he's released the horror tarot, and it's
Ooh.
and it's all like movie posters of horror movies and things like that, and same kind of packaging which I'll show you guys in a bit. But yeah, so
Ooh, I found it.
yeah.
Ooh, this is nice.
Yeah, so
Ooh.
I really like that. And so so the the first like the Kickstarter version of it was a bit of a more slender box, and the cards fit flush with the guidebook,
Yeah.
and it was a magnetic
I like
closure,
that though.
and it was
Looks
a
like a book. It's cute.
yeah, and it was a magnetic closure. Well, the original one looks exactly like a book too. It's just
Oh,
smaller, right? Like
oh.
and same idea, but it had a magnet closure, whereas this one does not. That just does that. So
Oh, it
that's
doesn't stay closed?
yeah. But
Dang.
I have my makeshift Dollarama solution for that. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, my nerdy kind of something. But anyway, but yeah, so it's got the ribbon and then the cardboard insert. So that was the thing too that I was like, why? I don't like just make the book and the cards the same size, please. But I've come to appreciate it. And not only that, it's like the book. There's absolutely no need for that extra wasted space because everything fits in the space. So,
Yeah.
anyways, so that's the only downfall, and I think like the horror terror is probably the exactly the same. But I instead of seeing it as a problem, I tried to come to appreciate things instead of being, and appreciate for what it is. And I absolutely loved Deck, so I'm so happy that I decided not to send it.
I have it on my wish list on Amazon. They have the horror one too. I'm gonna add it to my wish list.
Yeah. So, and luckily my cardboard insert is pretty intact, so I'm pretty happy about that. So yeah. Like so that the why I also don't like it is because they can get damaged in like transport, and then like, and then it doesn't hold the card secure anyway. So it's almost like, what was the point?
Mm.
But yeah. So yeah, and yeah. So that's that section. Oh yeah, here's the funny thing. So if you remember, just before we started and I pressed record, I was telling you the questions that I had, right?
Mm.
The list of questions. I tried to print it and then I couldn't.
Mm.
Sometime in the time you were talking all about your decks and everything.
It printed?
Yeah. Just like random. I heard the machine and then out the paper comes. I was like, and I wanted to ask, I was like, are we in Mercury retrograde or
No, we're
something?
not.
Because
No, it
that was
ended on the
kind of
2nd
tripping me.
of January.
It was a little bit
Pretty sure even
trippy.
the post shadow phase is over too. So
Yeah, so anyway, that was kind of funny. But yeah. Um, so let's see, where were
I don't know if we're
so
gonna have time to go through the rest of the questions. We're
I
almost at
know,
7:30,
I
but
know. But like what do you kind of trying to combine some of these things too, but like um how would you say, like, in the past several years, like, because like we're in a global mental health crisis right now, right? And like,
mm,
you know what would you say has been your motivation for creating your actual practice, and how you feel about the current stigma, and you
yeah.
know what do you think needs to improve?
hmm Um, okay, in terms of like what I feel about like the crisis that's going on still and like the stigma or whatever that's going on. I'm actually not really that surprised that we still have a stigma in society. Like if you take a look at society and how we've evolved, I feel like in a lot of times we are going backwards. Like if you look at the things that are is happening in the world today, I feel like we're actually taking a step back rather than a step forward. And I feel like mental health will probably never, I don't want to say never, never. Like my hope is that eventually people will stop stigmatizing others that have mental health, but I feel like with the society that we live in, that I don't think that it's ever going to get to a place where it's normalized and people are supported in a way, I guess, and where people think, where people say, it's okay to talk about your mental health. I feel like we're still at the place where so many people are like, don't talk about this and don't talk about that. And e- even though, even though Belle does this once a year, which is not even enough. No offense. No offense to Belle, but it's not enough. But like I feel like no one talks enough about mental health and what really needs to be done is like the government needs to provide more money to mental health services. And I feel like they give money to all these other things that are not even as important as people's mental health and their health in general, like our healthcare system and
Like
improving
the
the
green belt
services.
and the ridiculous four was it 413 that they're trying to build on my side of the
I don't even know what's going on your
Yep.
side. Don't even ask me. I'm thinking about Quebec half the time because I'm from Quebec. I know you're both from Ontario, but I'm from Quebec, and I feel like they don't give enough services. They don't give enough money to mental health services, let alone health services. Like you go to the hospital and you can't even get good services half the time. So I feel like they should be prioritizing that because that's what helps people keep people alive, That's what's important in the society is to give money towards those things. I actually did an internship at a suicide, not suicide, at a mental health hotline. It wasn't a suicide hotline, it was a mental health hotline where people could call, a free hotline you can call and just talk to someone, and that was it. And I did that for a year. It was one of my internships that I did during social service. And even the government didn't give them enough money. They were struggling a lot because they had to rely on donors all the time to give them money. And their service was very important because people use the service often. And it was supposed to be a 24-hour service where you could call 24 hours and someone would always be there, either in English or in French, for you to talk to if you needed someone to talk to. But they couldn't, in English, they had to cut down the services. People could not, the English side couldn't even have 24-hour service. French was more likely to have 24-hour service than the English, which isn't fair. In Quebec, we constantly see that struggle between language anyway, with English and French and everything that goes on here with that, the separation between us, that there needs to be more of a focus on French rather than English and things like that. And it really creates a very big division between the people that live in this particular province. But it does affect also the healthcare system and the services that are provided. Majority of the time you cannot get services in English where I live, and that is very difficult, especially when you're trying to find mental health services. The community is very big and that speak English, that are Anglophone in Quebec, and they focus so much on the French, they forget about everyone else. People who speak English, people who don't even speak English or French, what about them? You know? They forget
Mhm.
about them too. So I feel like governments in general, if we're thinking about Canada as a whole, they should really need to provide more funding towards mental health services and the services that, you know, need to go towards that and towards people that need that help. And they don't do enough of that, in my opinion. So that's what's really lacking, I think, in Canada specifically. Everyone looks to us and says, oh, free healthcare, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, free healthcare. You can't even get half the services you need. I don't even know what you think is so good about. Like I know in the States it's way worse than us, but yeah, you think our healthcare is good, but it's really it's not that great. It's a mess. Honestly, it's a mess. But yeah, they really need to start with the money. I think funding, services, numbers to call if we need, making it easier to find a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist if you need one. It's so hard to find one. Half the time you have to spend so much money. They should fund to try to find services that are on a sliding scale or free for people that can't afford these kind of services because people really suffer not being able to afford those services because they're so expensive, right? And just having free services and funding free services is what we all really need, in my opinion, in terms of what's lacking. So, yeah.
Um, I just want to add on to that. And I do see this as a teacher, and I felt it as a student. In terms of the services that are provided, I personally, and this is actually, I feel like it's a less popular opinion because a lot of people say therapy does help, but I've gone to therapy and I've had different therapists, and personally for me, therapy actually doesn't really work. Because therapy in a lot of sessions, it's a dialogue between you and your therapist, but that dialogue for me is already happening internally, so I'm just repeating everything that I say to myself. And the therapist is also saying, like, you know what to do already. Like, it's kind of like, why did I come in the first place? Because I feel like I already, for me, and this is really just for me, because everyone else says therapy works for the most part, but for me, it hasn't really worked. So the services that are provided, I find don't work for some people because I have heard other people say like therapy isn't working, and I have a friend who is struggling with her mental health, and she actually doesn't want to be admitted to the mental health ward at the hospital because she says they if they find out that, for example, she's cutting herself or something like that, they're gonna keep her there. And she says, but I have other things to do. I have a job to look for. I have this to do, I have that to do. And so that's not gonna help her either. Because it's not just like we can't just add more mental health services. We need a follow-up. We need more mental health days at work so that she can
100%.
look for a job later instead of feeling like she's stuck at the mental health work because that's adding more stress to her mental health. So
Yeah.
it's like if we change one part on the system, because society is like a whole system, we change one part, we got to change this part and that part because it's a
Yeah.
whole ecosystem, right?
Hmm.
And another thing that I find is I think as a society, one issue that I am seeing is um, I don't think, even to this day, I don't think we're honoring the feminine enough. And I say feminine not as like women necessarily, although it can be. I speak about it as an energy. And I was listening to a podcast by Elizabeth D'Alto, which I really like. I really like listening to her podcast, and she was interviewing a man named Ken Page, and it was called Deeper Dating. And in it, they were talking about masculinity and femininity, but instead of masculinity and femininity, they were using words instrumentality for masculinity versus expressiveness. So they're removing the gender out of those out of that terminology, and they're talking about the I
Mechanics,
don't know
basically, like
what
stripping it to like its bone, if you will.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
like anyone can have both, and usually we do have both, otherwise we can't really function. And I really like the choice of words, and I personally feel like we need to honor the so-called feminine or the expressive part because I feel like a lot of people walk around feeling very suppressed. And when you're suppressed like that, that energy has to go somewhere. And if
Mhm.
it's not coming out, then it's probably eating you up inside. And I believe in the saying, hurt people hurt people. So when you're so hurt like that, at some point it's gonna come out, it might lash out. It might
Oh yeah,
become
for sure.
like a lot of men start to rage. Um, and I call it, for me personally, I say I have to express myself because I get emotionally constipated. And so it has to come out somehow. That's what it feels like. It's like it won't come out. I feel it, it won't come out because I won't let it, because I'm the one stigmatizing it for myself now. So there's external stigmatization
Yes.
and there's internal stigmatization. So a huge part of my journey and what I've learned consistently throughout the years is to honor that expressive part of me
Mm,
and always give it an outlet. Always instead of saving it for like much later, instead of delaying it, letting it come out a little earlier. Because sometimes we value, actually, most of the times we value work, work, work. We value being instrumental more, but that expressiveness is the other half of the coin. It's all about that balance. At
Mhm.
least for me, it's all about that balance. So that was a huge deal for me. And in terms of like finding my inner child, that has helped as well. And I don't know if this is age appropriate. Like I don't know like what the rating for this video is gonna be, but
Oh,
um
it's not for like I usually list it not for kids, like it's adults. So it's like not
okay.
18 plus, but like
Okay.
yeah, mature audience, if you will. Yeah.
So I've like used alternative like unconventional methods of tapping into my inner child, and there is something called, I don't know if I should say it actually, like, but there's a thing. It's like it's actually it's a booming community of people who age regress. I'll just use terms like age regression, and they actually
mm,
seek a partner that can be like a parental figure, and but it's not what's the word? They're not fetishizing kids. It's not about that. It's two consenting adults. But I've noticed for me that I gravitate towards relationships where I can be that child again. I can have that childlike wonder, a wonder that I stifled because I did not value it. And so it's really important that my partner, or whoever I'm seeing or whoever I'm surrounding myself with, supports that. So it takes a whole community to,
mm,
just like how it takes a whole community to raise a child, it also takes a whole community to hone our inner children as well.
mm.
And so that's another thing that I've kind of learned over the years, honoring the feminine or the expressive part, because I think that part is shunned as well. And it's not like it helps men either. It's not like it's helping them either, because I've talked to a lot of men, even as I'm dating, as I'm talking to people online, and a lot of them are very suppressed. A lot of them don't feel like they can express themselves, and when they do express themselves, somehow they all sound like they're angry at me now. I become the punching bag, because they have nowhere else
Mm,
to put it into. So yeah, in the dating world, I was talking to my friend about it, and she's acting like she's traumatized almost from the dating world, because it's like there's so much pain everywhere.
yeah.
There's so much pain. And I feel like it's not just pain from the individual. A lot of it is generational pain. It's
Yep.
being passed down, trauma, intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And now the younger generation is carrying that pain, that whether it's like the women that were suppressed or the men that were overworked in previous generations, a
Hmm.
lot of it from other countries where the gender roles are very defined. And now
Hmm.
the next generation is trying to redefine what it means to be a man, a woman, this and that. And then at the end of the day, it's like, I don't think anyone can really define that for you. You just kind of had to figure out what that means for yourself.
Yeah.
It's like for yourself, because through astrology, I've learned that we're so multifaceted. It's almost impossible to just label someone like that. You got to look at the whole picture. So
True.
learning to embrace that kind of like that ambiguity in people, in ourselves, and trusting that, and not letting anything be suppressed, because whatever is suppressed will probably end up like a volcano at some point. Nothing should really be put down. No one should be put down, and our emotions can't be like put down as well.
Mhm.
And that's why like it all comes around again, and I feel like it the whole aspect of shadow work and the importance of reflection and how we see ourselves and how we see one another, and really taking a look and confronting, these things, right? Like, so Amy, you were talking about, therapy and how for you it doesn't work, but that, right? But then it's it's recognizing that that doesn't diminish the importance of therapy, right? Because I'm very much an advocate for talk therapy, right? Guided therapy with someone, who's, right? Because here's one of the things that even myself having that experience and working in the field of social work, and and having that education, you know and what happened to me, and that breakdown, it was also the reflective perspective that maybe a way of looking at something, because of my wounding, because of I blindly can't see, right? But somebody who's out of that bubble, if you will, can see the perspective on a very, what's the word, sort of broader view, if you will, right? And they're able to, because my emotions, my inner children, if you will, right, the parts of me, my you know that can get triggered and all of that, can be all wrapped up. And until I separate myself from those emotions, I'm not going to be able to see a very clear picture of all that needs to be seen in whatever situation and things like that. Right. And even how we, how we're raised and stuff like that, we become blinded to the, to what patterns that, and sometimes there's a flip side. Sometimes we either go a different route, um try to make up and go the complete opposite, but without that healing aspect, because we're leading with emotion, we end up making maybe the opposite side of mistake, right? And there's not that balance, so you need that sort of healing to come back to center, and separate your emotions, because each emotion, whether it be you right, like too much of that, you can't let that overtake you, and let that be your guide. Your emotions are like your children, right? Like and that's a perspective that I've connected with, that I learned from my own therapist, and that we continue to work with. But as I do that, I see the benefits, and how multifaceted my mind is, and that as much as I've, my experience and the knowledge I've gained from working in a Christian bookstore, to having the love of books and poetry, my background, you know ancestrally, one of my grandmothers was a teacher, right? That, right? So, and all of those sort of, so that this is kind of like how my brain works, and this is why I feel like it's not just about the therapy, right? It's addressing the various aspects of everything. I picked my profession, yeah, because of what I felt I lacked and wanted to make up for, in from childhood, whatever. That's what sort of, shaped me into to what my profession is, what I hold near and dear and value highly, because I've seen the patterns not only within my family, but I have that mind to see the patterns of other families, other people that I've encountered and I've experienced. I have a very analytical mind, if you will, you know, and you know, it, you talked about, you know, the idea of having Amy, the alternative methods of introspection, if you will, right? And that's where, to me, the bibliomancy, cartomancy, tarot, oracle, books, right? Like, minus the dogmatic, controlled box of religion, but the teachings, the historical teachings, if you will, right? That our commonality. I talked about that word you know, the omnius, and being able to see the bigger picture, right? Like it's and so this is why I appreciate all this. Is it's we're complex people, right?
Mhm.
Healing, mental
Yeah.
health, wellness, all of this, it, it is right. Like this is the thing that we should value most, but we're the sort of the mechanical. Like we invented money. Why is there such an imbalance in society? Why
Mhm.
is it every mental health, do we not realize it's how we interact with the world and each other is what determines how our brain functions? Like it's
And a lot of the times I feel like, sorry, were you gonna?
no, I yeah, like you can totally jump in, but
Yeah.
there's like, right, like it's everything that we're saying, and it's there shouldn't be a stigma. We should be
Mhm.
able
Hmm.
to express ourselves and accept and work with and do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then it's like, and even when they do address it, so in schools, we are addressing mental health, but we're doing it in a way that feels like we're adding more to the stress of it. Like,
Mm,
it feels like we're given a pill. It's like they're telling us to pop a pill. Just like take it. Like it's a remedy. Feel better today. But what about tomorrow? And what about the day after? So it's a very like it's again like a very like A to B to C to D. It's not looking at the full picture. And as an
Yes.
analogy, I was in a parking lot once, put on Google Maps, and the I was trying to follow the Google Maps, trying to get out of the parking lot. The Google Maps literally told me to go left and then sorry, to go north and then go south and then east and then west. And I was like spinning in circles. And that's kind of how I feel a lot of times when I'm looking for mental health solutions is I'm spinning in circles because I'm given so many solutions, but it's chaos. A lot of times it is chaos because everyone's
mm,
telling us what works and it's there's a lack of clarity there for a lot of people. There's too much
yeah.
stuff dumped onto us, like especially during COVID when schools were down and educators were like forced to go online and they were like soldiers. Teachers were like soldiers at the time. I didn't start teaching at the time. I'm barely new, but teachers were forced to do things that they'd never done before and it was so stressful for so many teachers. Um having to learn everything. And then they gave us mental health resources, but it was like pill after pill after pill. And it wasn't helping most people. I'd say very few people got through those resources because it was information overload and there was not enough just like one person. I think what we really needed at the time and even today is just pick up your phone and then call a friend and call someone and be like, are you okay? Just starting that conversation, just talking about it. Because those pills aren't really gonna help. It's just like how those pills wouldn't really help someone. Um, like it's I think what I'm really saying is like there's more to humans than just like a simple solution. I feel like it's a whole paradigm shift that needs to happen for mental health to truly be recognized as important. It's like everything, every aspect of our society needs to catch up. It doesn't just start in hospitals, it doesn't just start in schools. They
It's
need to,
acceptance with ourselves and being able to see each other as the multifaceted beings that we we all are, right? And the understanding, because you even talk, the cookie cutter and then even in the workplace, as a social worker, in my experience and what I've been through and the stress on my mental health and the breakdown that I went through, how I had to deal with all of that and the toll that that entire burden with everything I was going through at the time put on me. And I was working for an agency that takes care of vulnerable people and looks after the wellness and mental health of these people. We're people too, we're not machines. Where was the support for my mental health? No. The stigma. I wasn't functioning like a normal human being, and people can see that. But rather than supporting and helping and making sure I got what I needed, I was seen as a liability and then got pushed out. And it's been me trying to rebuild all this now today, and can see where the holes, where the lacking, of society, the support, the governmental, everything. And we went through COVID, and the way that all of that was handled, and then we wonder why we're in a global mental health crisis.
Yeah.
Hello. Right? Like, this is exactly why this is important, why combining and understanding and the healing work is so important, because it helps to value exactly everything about who we are, right? Our entire planet, universe is connected. We are the whole, right? And so it's how what we do, because of what we've experienced and the lack of recognition and healing and the imbalance that oversets, right, the destruction that, and then we continue to repeat the same cycle. When are we going to wake up and get it? Like, the time is now.
Yeah.
So it's this is why this is all meaningful to me. This is why I really, can appreciate people for what they are doing and for who they are, and why the two of you mean so much to me. And I feel like I'm finding my people. So this is we've been going on, I know, for quite some time, and
Yeah.
there's but I kind of hit the other question about how mental health and illness has impacted my life, and if any one of you want to speak on that, and then we can even then close, what would you say that you would take away from this experience today, this talk that we've had together and we've shared, and even with what's, going on in the world right now, and how that makes us feel like, please.
Well, I guess I'll just answer the second question. For me, I would say that what I've taken from this is that there's still so much to be done, and we all have our own ways to cope with mental health. But I'd say that, we all seem to be in agreement with some things and what needs still more to be done. And hopefully, the more will be done. I would hope. That's literally, I feel the star, the star moment of the tarot, with that hope and whatnot. I would hope that things would change, and society could be better and without stigma, really, is
Yeah.
what I would say. So, yeah.
Um,
You, Amy?
So for me, yeah, I have struggled a lot with my mental health, even though I've never been diagnosed with an illness before, but I'm pretty sure I've been depressed before. I'm very sure I've been anxious before as well. And it was to the point where it was debilitating. Like I was anxious to get into moving vehicles. I was anxious to be um on the second floor of a building. Like it was like weird things like that that I had no reason to be anxious about, but it was all because of like this inner turmoil and it just kept churning and churning and churning because there was no outlet. And there was no one who I felt like would truly understand me, who would truly believe me when I said, "Hey, I really need help." I knew that my parents, they still stigmatize mental health, and so I actually, my dad actually said therapy is for crazy people because at the time I was going to therapy. So it was like comments like that that it always felt like a step backward for me. But I guess where I am now is I know I know what's important to me. Maybe mental health is not that important to some people. Maybe some people just aren't that affected by it. But if it affects me, then I have every right to focus on it and to honor it. So knowing myself and I think like what I've taken away from the experience, I learned a lot about the different cards and like I that's something I'll be looking into. Um, I also like I actually do I do follow this one person called Liz Harrison. She also reads cards. I don't know what kind of cards, like I'm not knowledgeable about the
Mhm.
terminology. I don't really
Let's
pay
see.
attention to. Liz Harrison. Liz Harrison.
Liz
And she
Harrison.
goes by Guided by Angels on YouTube. So I actually follow her readings pretty regularly whenever I feel called to do it. I always go with that feeling, that inclination. And I found her because this is very personal, but I don't mind. I was chasing somebody that I really loved, and who at least I thought I really loved. And I found her because I was convinced that this person was my twin flame. And she's like a twin flame, like card reader person. And so I learned a lot through her readings, and I learned to what am I trying to say? I learned not to chase what's not meant to be. I learned that like in life, I sometimes I just gotta have fun. And
Mm,
this is something that was really hard for me to digest because I grew up feeling like I had to go, go, go. I grew up feeling like I'm only worthy if I can accomplish certain things, if I can reach certain milestones. I'm only worthy if I work hard, if I have this kind of reputation. But really, I'm worthy by just being, like literally by just being me. And so that was a big lesson. And it sounds so simple. It sounds like something you would tell a 5-year-old, but I see adults walking around and they don't know this. They don't really understand what that really means. And so I learned it through the whole twin flame idea. Um, and learning to just like be I like nowadays I actually think in terms of the instrumentality versus expressiveness. I know which energy to tap into whenever I need it. And it's like I can like logically think about my emotions. So I'm a Cancer rising. I do navigate the world through emotional lenses, but um I'm able to like rationalize it as well and know like okay right now I'm feeling this way and it's probably because of this, so I'm able to find solutions like that. And I think I'm going off topic, but anyways, my overall message is to feel like I had a lot, but it's expression. I feel like at the end of the day, it's expression. And my poetry is the way I express my feelings and my
yeah.
inner world. It really comes out through poetry. I tell people like if you want to get to know me, I feel like you should read this book. You'll know me really well after. It's like my diary. So I think that's my message.
I looked up Liz Harrison, Guided by Angels on YouTube. I looked at her TikTok and she looks like it looks like she uses mostly Oracle. She does have some videos with tarot in it, but it looks like it's mostly Oracle that she uses.
Okay.
Yeah. Apparently decks that she's created because she has her own decks apparently.
Yeah, yeah. And there was one called it's called Divine Masculine Silence. And this one I literally felt like my lifeline for a while when I was trying to understand the whole
Mm,
ghosting, blocking experience. And she talks about that, but it was part of
okay.
me realizing like don't chase what's meant to be. Like just relax, just do your own thing. Don't chase. And it's like right now in the online dating world, it's kind of bad out there the way my that's what my friend says it's bad out there because there's a lot of wounded souls out there walking around like zombies
Mm.
and just like go within and don't chase, don't let things organically happen. I feel like that's also something that I've had to learn over the years as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, with healing comes acceptance, right? Like, and and as we accept, so we shall heal. So, right? And heal each other too, that butterfly effect. So, you know, and so kind of just going into like I've already said how mental health has affected me and personally and what all this means to me. But the this year, what I get to take away from the this chat is and with everything is the connectivity and how the poetry with the divination and the connectivity of spirituality and like-mindedness and neurodiversity, everything is so connected, and the understanding of ourselves and the understanding of each other and how you know accepting how multifaceted we are and supporting that is so important. And just how again connecting to as I said with the astrology and the ancestry and all of that numerology. We're filming this on Sunday, January 14th, 2024, and Bell Let's Talk Day is exactly in 10 days. 10, the number of the cycle, right? And then we begin again, and the ending of one, and the healing to counteract the negative karmic cycles that we've created throughout history, throughout our lifelines, and how we can better ourselves and each other, through recognizing and breaking the stigma of mental health, so, and this marking 3 for me doing these videos, and again, not sponsored, but I do this because of what I've experienced and what the whole concept of love and connectivity and mentality means to me. So, I want to thank you both today for joining me in this incredibly long video, but so exciting. And to me, just so fascinating. And I loved every minute of it. And I want to thank you. And I hope that this serves each of us and everyone well, and that someone was able to take something away from this. Everything that we talked about is going to be linked down below. I still have the Seraphina's Rue and Vervain with the Earth, Moon, and Shadow Oracle. That first edition is still pending. As long as if you really enjoyed this video, please consider sharing, subscribing. There's more things like this, and all connected to mental health and divination and spirituality, with some aspects of religion, but not really kind of forced. You just my like it's really all about love.
Mhm.
That's who I identify myself to be, and it's who I feel I was created to be. And as I see myself, I see the same in everyone else too. So if I am love, so are you. Please take care of yourselves and each other. I love you. Don't forget to live, listen, and learn. I am human, so are you. Bye.
Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. No matter what people want.